Hey, how's it going everyone? Welcome back to Keeping Fish Simple. So in today's video, we're going to be doing another vlog, and just quickly before this video starts, yes, I shaved the mustache off. I was getting hounded with comments about it, and I thought it was finally time, now that November's over, to finally take it off. I didn't do the mustache for November, I just tried out the look, and I don't know if we'll bring it back. So anyways, there's been so much that's happened since the last time we saw each other, and there's been Pleco trappings. I've had my Royal Whiptails breed, my little German blue ram babies are doing really good, and there's just a ton of stuff that I want to show you that's going on in the fish room that's really exciting today. So I guess let's start the video off by talking about the German blue rams that we bred in the last episode.
Okay, so if we come on over to our fry system, you can see here that we've got our little German blue ram tub set up. Now these are the guys that we bred in the last episode. These little fish are all German blue rams, so there's no blue black rams in here or any midnight rams, and you can see they're all doing really well. They've all been eating baby brine shrimp, and they've been growing rapidly because of that. This is because baby brine shrimp has a massive protein content, and the second these guys get on the baby brine shrimp, their growth just goes crazy. So I'm assuming within 2 weeks these guys will be out of this system and into a grow out tank, and it'll only take about 2 months until they're at sellable size. So there's quite a lot in this batch. We haven't had any die-offs, and these guys at this age don't need the auto feeding system anymore. So once I saw that they were on baby brine shrimp, I decided to disconnect that, and I've got that waiting until we next need it. But anyways, enough on these guys. There's something else that I want to show you. If you come on over to this side of the fish room, you can see here we have 2 egg tumblers going. Now in one tumbler we have a small clutch of peppermint bristlenose eggs, which isn't that exciting. But in our other tumbler, we have a clutch of some Royal Whiptail eggs. Now I've been really wanting to get these guys to breed again since the last time I bred them, because last time I bred them, it was a little bit of a fail. The egg tumbler turned off overnight due to some issue with the airline tubing that I was using, and I lost my whole clutch of eggs. Now the reason I put these in an egg tumbler is because the parents, over in a tank across the other side of the fish room, when they breed, they were just splashing the eggs all around the aquarium, and I think that's just because they're a young pair, but they were just not doing a great job of keeping those eggs on the glass, and I had to pick up all the eggs off the substrate of the tank and put them in this tumbler to keep them alive. So you can see their little eyes and spines are all forming inside of their eggs, and they've all been doing really well. So I'm assuming that they're going to hatch in a couple days time, and then we can move them over to our fry system, and likely we're going to have to use that automatic feeding system to keep these guys alive. Also, while we're over at this tank, if you come and have a look down below, you can see that one of our males is on eggs again. And also in the tank next door, we have another colony of these guys, and there's also another male that's on eggs. So we've got 2 peppermint bristlenose on eggs at the moment. They've just been going crazy at the moment with the breeding, and I've had quite a lot of success over the year with breeding these guys. I've been getting at least a batch of eggs every month from these guys, and it's just been really satisfying to see it happening, because they're a fish that I really like to breed, and a fish that's in high demand, and something that I just really enjoy making in the fish room. So a lot of people have been asking me what I do to trigger these guys to breed, and when I got the spawns for these guys, the TDS in the tank was at 230 parts per million with a pH of 6, and the temperature was at 28 degrees Celsius. Now I think that this was due to a temperature drop in the fish room, because I turned off the aircon in the fish room for a couple of days just to drop the temperatures in the tanks, as there was a huge rainstorm coming over my city. So we had quite a few days full of rain and some electrical storms, and I think this played a huge role in getting these spawns. Another thing I did as well was I did a water change the day before, and I came back the next morning and there was a spawn. So if I was going to give you guys any advice, it'd just be to try and aim for those conditions. I don't think they're too fussy, but I think that temperature drop really does help them. Also next door to these guys is the pair of blue-black rams that we bred in the last episode. You can see they're still with their fry, and the fry have been growing like the German blue rams on the other side of the fish room really quickly now that they're all eating baby brine shrimp. So it's about time for these guys to come out, and I will be stripping them within the next 24 hours and putting them into their own fry tray to continue their growing out and let the parents move on to creating their next batch. So I just thought a lot of you guys would be interested on how they're going, and the parents did a fantastic job of taking care of them. If I could give you guys any advice on how to keep your rams from eating their eggs and eating their fry, it'd be to keep the lights on 24/7 and to not do any water changes. I think the dither fish in the tank also helped. There is some endless up above them that they have been protecting the fry from, and it's helped the pair to take their aggression out on something besides each other. So it's really good to see these guys taking care of their fry, but they're probably going to be the last pair in the fish room to take care of their own fry, now that I'll be manually stripping out the fry and taking care of them myself. Now, I have a little bit of a surprise for you guys. If you come on over to this tank, you can see here that we've picked up some new fish. Now, recently I've gotten a little bit of a niggle to try and breed betters again, and I was breeding a ton of betters at the start of the year, and it was actually quite a success. I made hundreds of betters and had a lot of fun doing it. Now, a certain strain of better that I've wanted to breed for a while has been the Dumbo ear betters, and you can see here we've picked up a pair of these beautiful Dumbo ear betters. Now, I know they're pink, and I just wanted to try something different. But you can see here we've got our beautiful male, and he's in with these neon tetras in quarantine currently, and we've got our female over the other side of the fish room who's also in quarantine at the moment. I haven't come up with any names for these guys yet, so if you guys have any suggestions, leave them down in the comments below. I'm open to any ideas, but you can definitely expect to see some better breeding within the next month on my YouTube channel. Anyway, so while I was looking around the fish room and doing my daily checks, I looked over in my L397 tank, which has my tiger plecos in it, and I just happened to notice that there was a male fanning away in one of the caves. Now, I knew that these guys were close to breeding, but I didn't know whether they were actually going to be able to breed. And I didn't think that this fanning could have been anything because I commonly see my plecos fanning, and it doesn't always mean that there's eggs in the cave. But I just decided to set up my camera and have a look inside the cave because I did notice there was a few snails up the back of the cave, which I thought would predate on the eggs while the male was unaware of it, if there were any eggs in there. So I went ahead and lifted out the cave carefully, and the male just jumped out of the cave, but also you can see here a little clutch of eggs fell out, and I was just absolutely stoked. I was so excited to see this. This is the first time I'd ever bred one of my plecos besides the peppermint bristlenose and just the normal bristlenose, and I was just absolutely over the moon. So I quickly grabbed the eggs out of the tank and I set them up in this egg tumbler. Something I noticed about these eggs was just how large they were. These eggs were massive compared to bristlenose eggs, and I was just super excited, so I set them up in this tumbler and then I left them to hatch. The reason I think that I got this spawn was likely because of that temperature drop in the fish room and the storms coming over the city that I'm in. I had the temperature of the fish room at about 28 degrees, and then I just completely turned off the aircon and the temperature came down to about 25 degrees in the fish room, so the temperature in the tanks dropped about a degree or two. I did do a test on the water in the tank, so you guys can use this as a reference if you want to breed your fish. The L397 spawned in a TDS of 193, with a pH of 6.8, a GH of less than 50 parts per million, and a KH of less than 50 parts per million, with a temperature of 29 degrees Celsius. Like I said, I largely think this was due to the temperature drop in the fish room, and there was also a water change with tap water a day before, which is likely to have also decreased the temperature in the tank and freshened up the water a little bit. Anyways, I did come back the following day, and there was just a ton of things also happening in the fish room in regards to the plecos. I noticed that there was 2 more L397s trapping females, so you can see them here in the 2 caves. So I'm hoping that I do get some eggs out of these too. We also had a trapping over in our L270 tank. So you can see here we've got a male trapping a female up the back of this cave. And we also had a trapping in our L333 tank over on the other side of the fish room. So we had a total of 4 plecos trapping at once, which is absolutely crazy. You can see here just how important that temperature drop is for breeding the plecos. Keep in mind, I've never bred plecos before, and I've been keeping these pairs for years, and all in the same week with the temperature drop, pretty much all of the plecos in the fish room decided to start breeding.
So as you guys can see, it's been quite a successful week in the fish room. We've had 2 peppermint bristlenose spawns. We've got 4 plecos trapping at the moment, which is absolutely crazy. So hopefully we do get some eggs. We figured out the rams on how to breed those guys, and just a ton of stuff has happened so quickly. So I think a lot of the success with the plecos in the fish room this week has come down to me turning off the aircon for the week. So the aircon's dropped the temperature down in the fish room, and we're now at about 25 degrees in most of our tanks. Like I said though, the L397 spawn was at 29 degrees Celsius. So I'm not too sure what the trigger was for that. There was a water change a couple of days before. That could easily be the reason why we had that spawn. But anyways, there is a ton of work still to do in the fish room. We've got tons of dirty tanks that need cleaning up. So I'm gonna get to doing that, and I'll catch up with you guys a bit later. Okay, so it's now a day later and so much has happened since I last saw you. We've got a surprise spawn from my L270s, which is a fish room first. I've never spawned these guys, and we have a ton of Plecos trapping again. And I'm just gonna quickly run you guys around and show you everything that's going on. It's just crazy. So I guess we'll start on over at this tank, which is a tank that I haven't really talked about much on this channel. And in this tank, you can see we've got some of these beautiful L270 chocolate zebra Plecos. So these guys aren't zebra Plecos, but they're called like a chocolate zebra. They look pretty similar to like an L333, but they're obviously not an L333. They kind of look like if an L333 and a zebra Pleco had a baby and you added some chocolate to it. So you can see right here, this would be, I think, a female, I'm not too sure. We were looking at this aquarium the other day and we did know that this male here at the end, in this cave here, if my camera will focus, he was trapping a female. And I came in yesterday and the female had left the cave and there was a couple snails up the back of the cave. So I didn't think there was any eggs, but I just had a bit of a closer look and I still couldn't see anything. Off camera, I took the cave out because I didn't think there'd be any eggs, and then there was just a huge cluster of eggs that fell out. So these guys had bred. Now, this is a first for me. I've never bred these guys before, and I didn't even know that these guys were ready to breed. I thought they were on the brink of breeding, but to get eggs is crazy. So if we come on over here, you can see in this egg tumbler, we have some eggs. Now, I think all of these are fertilized except for one. And you can see here, I've done a little bit of a cheeky strategy and I've thrown a little blue dream shrimp in here. The reason we've thrown him in here is because he's going to help to keep these eggs extra clean, because I've been struggling a little bit with fungus. Because normally when you breed Plecos, you want to leave them in with the parents, because the parents are going to take care of any fungus that's going to grow on the eggs. It's a whole lot easier to do that, but because there were snails in the cave, and because these are all young fish, I really didn't like the chances of them taking care of their eggs, because I think that they did have another spawn about a week ago, and I found one egg in the aquarium, which means they probably ate them. So you can see we got the eggs here. There's one that's infertilized, so we will try and take that egg out if it does start to become a bit of a fungus issue. Because if we come over here, you can see we've got our L397 eggs. Fungus has been quite an issue with these eggs, and this is because, as well, they're all young fish and they're not doing a very good job at fertilizing the whole clutch. And we didn't really have an option. We couldn't leave these guys in with the parents because they definitely would have eaten them. So we had to take them out. Now, I've been struggling a little bit with fungus and I've probably lost about 6 eggs. So I've been slowly trying to take the fungus off the eggs, but I do think we're probably only going to get like 6 or 7 of these guys hatched, which is fine because they will breed again. I'm going to show you what's going on in that tank in a second, but yeah, it's a little bit annoying and it's a bit frustrating, but at least we did get some eggs and we're getting a ton of experience from doing this. So I'm really happy to have these 2 clutches of eggs from our Plecos. Now, if we come on back to this tank with our L397s, you can see they're all out having a feed. I've chucked out some pellets and we've got one of our twig catfish out at the moment as well. But if we come and look at these 2 caves, you can see here, this male, he just trapped another female. He's got a female in his cave, and the male next door has had a female in his cave as well. Now, these females have been in here for about 24 hours, and I've been keeping a close eye to make sure that they don't eat their eggs or anything like that, and hopefully both of these pairs spawn. But I think the drop in the temperature in the fish room has just made all these fish really frisky, and it's caused us to suddenly have a ton of breeding. So I'm really glad that there's some trapping going on in here. These are the 2 dominant males, and they're in some of the Keeping Fish Simple caves that I made a couple of vlogs ago, which is really cool as well. So I'm hoping we can get some more eggs to make up for the ones that fungused over, but I'm super happy we've got tons of action going on in this tank. And then if we come a couple tanks over, you can see here we've got our colony of L201 Plecos, and a fish room first again is in this cave over here. This male has trapped another female, so we're going to keep tabs on this pair. I don't know whether they're going to breed. You can see the male's got a female in there though. Hopefully we get some eggs out of these guys. I didn't know that these guys were ready to breed either, but I did buy all these fish pretty much at the same time, so I wouldn't be surprised. So we'll see whether these guys eventually do have a spawn, but it's crazy that all this stuff's happening so quickly, so yeah. And the last thing I wanted to show you is over in this tank. You can see that our royal whiptail eggs have all started to hatch, and you can see here that I've added a few Indian almond leaves. So I'm hoping that these will grow some biofilm for them to eat when they finally start to eat in a couple of days. But as for raising these guys up, I think I'm just going to do it the same way as I did with my GBRs. And I'm going to try and use some egg yolk particles and constantly dose those, because apparently these guys are very finicky eaters and they're very tricky to raise. So we're going to do that, and we're also going to feed them rapashi and some really good high protein food, and we'll see how we go. But I'm going to talk more about this later on. I'm really not too sure what my strategy is so far. I need to get a little bit of experience with this batch, see how I go, see how tricky it is, because I've heard that it is very tricky from other fish keepers, and then try and come up with a bit of a better strategy on how I'm going to continue to breed these guys in the future. Okay, so it's now another couple of days later, and I'm sorry for the inconsistency in this vlog. I hope everything's still making sense because I've been super slack recording this week because so many fish room firsts are happening. I'm kind of a little bit blown away by everything, and everything's happening super quick. I'm just trying to figure out what I want to do personally while these things are happening instead of me recording it happening, because that's kind of an easy way to make mistakes because you're focusing on different things. So I'm going to give you guys some quick updates of what's happened since I saw you again, because we've had another spawn in our L201 tank, so I'm going to show you that. A few things have gone wrong with a few other spawns, so I'll show you that as well and I'll explain that. Let me quickly show you what's going on in our L201 tank. So if we come on over to our L201 tank, you can see here our male over here. He's out the front now because I just flashed a light to try and have a look in that tank and show you guys the eggs. But you'll see like the grey silhouette of the eggs that I got before. And this guy has finally had a spawn with another female. So I'm pretty sure, I don't know which female it was. I saw her before. I think it's literally this female here right next to him. She's a little bit beaten up, but he's just come out to make sure that we're not going to affect his eggs. But there he goes, you can see him go back in there. Oh, he's back out to make sure we're not going to touch anything. But he just finished up having a spawn with her, and it's actually quite a large spawn. Now, what I'm going to do with these guys is leave them in this cave, and hopefully the male doesn't eat them, and hopefully he does a good job taking care of them until they're little wrigglers. And then what we'll do is we'll take them out, and then we'll put them into a breeder box, and we'll try and rear them up that way. But we're going to do that in a future vlog, hopefully. So we did get a spawn from these guys, and I'm super happy about that. We've had spawns from 3 different Plecos this week. I've never bred a single Pleco in my life, an L number Pleco besides the peppermints, which are much easier than these guys. And we've just had a ton of things happen within 5 days. It's just unbelievable. So I can't really believe it, but hopefully he does a good job with these guys. I'm going to stop stressing him out. Also, if we come back to this L397 tank, silly me last night, I was looking through these tanks again, and I just noticed that down in this cave, you can see here the tail, this guy in the middle of the screen, I saw him flapping away in this cave. Now, Plecos kind of do that sometimes, like you can see up here, this guy's flapping away, and there's no eggs in that cave, but I was looking in here and I couldn't see past his body. And I just thought, like, you know what? I don't know why I thought this, but I decided that I was just going to have a look inside that cave and make sure there wasn't any eggs. And I pulled out the cave, and of course there was just a huge cluster of eggs, which is really stupid of me. I accidentally pulled all these eggs out of the cave, just being impatient, and I should have just waited, but I didn't trust this Pleco to take care of the eggs. And now we've got some extra eggs out of these guys in another container on the other side of the fish room, but I'm not too sure why I did that. I'm definitely not going to do that again in the future. That was a bit of a stupid move by me because he would have just taken care of the eggs himself and done a much better job than I could have. But we've had some issues with some of our eggs, so let me go show you what's going on. So if you come back to our original spawn with our L397s, you can see here we've still got the clutch of eggs, and I'll get a better close-up look at these guys, but you can see that their little eyes and heads have started to form. Now, we've had quite some issues with these eggs in regards to fungus. So a few of the eggs weren't fertilized in this batch, and some fungus started to grow. Now, I was talking to Malik from Malik's Fish Room, who's a really good Pleco breeder, on why this happens, and he was saying it's due to the KH in the water, and my water also has different pathogens to the water that he has in his fish room. So that's why I was growing fungus on these eggs. And because they're in this big aquarium, I was unable to add any methylene blue to the aquarium without affecting any of the other species in this tank. So I added a few shrimp like you saw before, but that didn't seem to be working too well, and the fungus kept growing. So I kept pulling off eggs and trying to make sure that fungus stopped growing, and for the most part, I've done a pretty good job here. So this spawn hasn't had any fungus issues for the last 24 hours. And I'm hoping these guys will all hatch, but we're down quite a lot of Plecos in this spawn. So this is the kind of stuff you learn when you do start breeding fish, and especially when you're new to breeding a certain type. You make all these mistakes, and at least we still have some viable eggs. So hopefully they hatch and these guys will grow up nicely. But same thing with our L201s. You can see here that I've disassembled this hatchery because they just got covered in fungus as well. And what I did was I added them to this tray with an air stone up the back, so you can see that air stone bubbling away, which is creating movement over the eggs, but it didn't seem to help too much. They just got overrun by fungus, and there's one or two in there that might hatch, but I'm kind of thinking that they won't hatch. So I'm pretty frustrated about that. I've kept the shrimp with these guys to try and eat some of that fungus away, but I got to them too late. But like I was talking about before, there we go, I just turned a light on and it looks much better. But if you have a look in this container, you can see we have our L397 spawn. I'm under the belief that this time we won't have any issues because I've gotten to them early before the fungus has grown on them, and you can see that nice blue color in the water. It's not Powerade. I've added some methylene blue to the water, so you can see here this is methylene blue, and what this will do, it'll act as an antifungal, and it'll stop any of the fungus being able to spread from egg to egg, hopefully, and ruin our whole spawn. So you can see there's quite a lot of eggs in this batch, and if we get these all to hatch, I'll be a very, very happy man. But I've currently turned the temperature on this aircon back up so the fish can take a rest and can fill up with eggs again, and then in a week's time I'm also going to try and drop the temperature again, so it's very hot in the fish room at the moment. But at least we got another spawn from these guys, and we've just had so much success in the fish room this week, it's unbelievable. Finally, in this container, you can see it's a little bit hard to focus on these guys, but our little whiptails are really close to having their first feeding. So I'm going to be working on this in a future vlog, but what we're going to be using is our auto feeding system that we used in our last video to hopefully dose some spirulina into the water. We're also going to feed these guys some rapashi and some live baby brine shrimp. Like I was talking about before, apparently they're really hard to raise. I'm not too sure if that's the case, but I guess we're going to find out in the next video. Also in the fry rack, you can see up the back of this container is our spawn from the last video that we made, where we were raising up some little German rams, and these guys are a blue-black ram spawn that I raised up with the parents. You can see earlier on in the video I stripped them from the parents and I put them in this tray, and they're all growing and doing fantastic as well. These guys will probably come out of the tray in about 2 weeks' time to make room for some more German blue rams that I'm hatching out next to the L397s in a bucket, and these guys are all growing fantastic. And over in this tray you can see we've got quite a large batch of German blue ram fry that we also hatched out in the last video. These guys are all growing fantastic as well, and I'm super happy to finally have a ton of these German blue rams coming through the fish room without having to raise them up with the parents, so that's really good. Yeah, what a week it's been in the fish room. So many fish room firsts. I'm absolutely astonished at how quickly this happened, and I'm hoping that in the future we continue to have more success with these species. It's nice to be able to see a lot of these projects that started 2 years ago, like all these fish I bought 2 years ago, or I guess a year and a half ago now, are finally starting to breed. So anyways, I think we're going to wrap it up here. Thank you so much for watching this video. If you enjoyed it, please leave a like down below, and I'll see you guys in the next one.